African problems are not going to be solved by holding conferences and meetings, no. Perhaps we are holding too many meetings. Perhaps we are holding too many symposia. Perhaps the time now is to hold symposia, workshops, and seminars only to evaluate what we have achieved in agriculture, what we have achieved in medicine, what we have achieved in artificial intelligence. Perhaps the time is now. As Ali Mazrui famously said, Africa is infamous for producing what she does not consume and consuming what she does not produce. The time is now to reverse that. And if that is going to be reversed, it will be on the shoulders of young men and women. But those young men and women must have a dramatic mental change. When will we stop believing that prayer and fasting alone can do the things that technology needs? Prayer and fasting without action is pure superstition. Europe and America love it when we are confused and divided. China loves it when we are confused and divided. Look at the Arab world. Look at little Qatar. Nobody cares because your political class take their children to Europe and America and Australia and Malaysia and South Africa. They don't care. And it's true of every African country, except for very few. African politicians are the richest in the world. It is an irony. And I'm suggesting to you that when the politics of any country stumbles, that country stumbles. And if you doubt me, ask the Sudanese. Just last night, they struck Khartoum. The universities in Sudan are no longer functioning because politics stumbled. You cannot afford the luxury of avoiding what is happening in your country. We cannot allow our very worst to be in positions of political leadership. We'll pay the price. I'm therefore asking you that beyond lamentation, we have lamented for too long. What are you doing? Beyond lamentation, what are you doing in your village? What are you doing in your county? What are you doing in your university? Beyond lamentation, beyond tweeting and TikToking, what are you doing? Because even the tweets and the TikToks that you use are not made by Africans. You consume what we do not produce. We are in the 4th and 5th industrial revolution. We are talking about artificial intelligence. Tell me, which aspect of artificial intelligence is made or propagated anywhere in the continent of Africa? We are consuming what others are producing. It is your generation that must change. The Koreans are doing it. The Indonesians are now doing it. The Vietnamese are now doing it. The Malaysians are doing it. The Chinese are doing it. The Indians are doing it. But Africans are praying and fasting. When you drive from Nairobi to Thika, you count the number of things that are called churches. They have run short of names. The time is now for us to think differently. And thinking differently can only happen if good men and women of goodwill also act in concert. Many African countries today, we may claim and talk about democracy, but many African countries are led by kleptocrats, thieves. But we are never angry for some reason. We still celebrate thieves. We call them our thieves. Which then begs the question, if the 21st century is going to be the century that defines Africa's future, are we on the right track? We are in the first third of the 21st century, in the year 2025. And as the saying goes, time and tide waits for no man. It is the worst of times, because when you look at the continent as I speak to you now, the country that we know as Sudan is at war, generating the largest number of internally displaced persons since the World War II. Central African Republic is in trouble. The Democratic Republic of Congo is in trouble. In the Sahel, northern Mali, northern Chad, northern Niger, northern Burkina Faso, Libya, Somalia, parts of Ethiopia, northern Mozambique, northern Nigeria, young men and women do not have the opportunity to realize their potential. Southern Cameroons, in Ambazonia, it is all chaos. There are places where young men and women have not gone to school for the last 3 years. And yet Africans are silent. As our young men and women are running away from the continent, young Chinese are coming to the continent. Young Lebanese are coming to the continent. There is nowhere today in the continent of Africa where you do not find young Chinese between the ages of 20 and 30. If they are not building bridges, they are building stadia. And if they are not building stadia, they have China centers and China squares from which we even buy toothpicks. That is the state of Africa. So once again, in the same way that we were politically conquered by young Europeans, we are being economically dominated by young Chinese. And we smile and pray and fast in the hope that that is going to be Africa's solution to our problems. Africa is begging and asking, where are my young men and women who will serve me? Africa is asking, where are my young men and women who will be doctors in whom we have faith? Where are our young lawyers in whom we have faith? Where are our engineers in whom we have faith? Where are our teachers in whom we have faith? Where are our agriculturalists in whom we have faith? Africa is asking and looking for the moment it appears that Africa cannot find those men and women. So that when we have cases as Kenyans, we get lawyers from outside. Interference will always be there. It is our duty to resist. It is in the nature of the world and the nature of humanity that there will always be an attempt at interference. You know, sometimes, I do not know whether you watched the United Nations General Assembly when the world leaders were addressing the assembly. When the President of the United States of America was addressing the assembly and he was insulting everybody. Everybody was there, Africans shaking their heads and they are being insulted. When President Mahama was delivering one of the most iconic speeches, the president of Ghana, they had gone, it was empty, they were shopping. How can we grow? The fault is with us. We have blamed others for too long. The time now is for us to take responsibility.